Well, I would have to say one of the biggest valleys would probably be the loss of some of our children. And it seemed like every time she got pregnant, we had this hope and this joy that it was going to work. And then, something would happen in the pregnancy to where it would terminate. I think his body wasn't able to sustain life. And so that was a very, very difficult time. We held him in our hands, and I had all types of feelings and emotions towards God. Like, why would you even allow this? If you were going to do this, what was the point of allowing our son to be born, to allow us to experience that, and then you take him?
50-50 chance. Like, they were basically like, we can't tell you he'll live or what.
For somebody who's watching today, who may be going through something like that too, man, we serve a God who is able, man. He is able to do exceedingly and abundantly above all that we can ask or think. And don't give into the despair of what people are saying. Until God says it's over, it's not over.
Hey, I'm Travis.
And I'm Adele.
And we are The Noble Marriage. We hope that through our channel, you will be inspired and motivated so that your marriage will be all that God created it to be.
Hey, and welcome back. We are in the middle of a little mini series with Pastor Tim and Nona Jones. And we are so excited for you to continue this series. If you haven't started from the first video, you're gonna wanna go back and check out that first video, and I'll put the link up in the right-hand corner. We hope you enjoyed today's video. So then, looking at the seasons of life that we go in and out, Travis and I have seen our own marriage that when we go into a valley, on the other side of that valley, we grow so much in our relationship. And so what is your valley that you've really been through and worked through in your marriage, and how did you work through it? Things like that.
Well, I would have to say one of the biggest valleys would probably be the loss of some of our children.
For sure.
When we first got married, we, weren't looking to have children early on, but then when we started, we were having difficulty being able to do that. And we tried and we prayed, and it just didn't seem like anything was happening. And eventually eventually my wife ended up getting pregnant, and we lost several children in their very early phases. I mean, that was just so tough. And it seemed like every time she got pregnant, we had this hope and this joy that it was going to work. And then, something would happen in the pregnancy to where it would terminate. I think one of the main ones was with our son, Daniel, who was born, what was he, about?
He was 20 weeks.
20 weeks. And everything was going well. And then it was one of those scenarios to where he woke up that morning, decided to come, and he came out. Every time I think about that was a very, very rough time.
Yeah.
He came out. I saw my little son. He came out screaming. He was so strong. I mean, he came out and his hands were feeling all over the place. But he just was too young. I mean, his body wasn't able to sustain life. And so that was a very, very difficult time. We held him in our hands, and I had all types of feelings and emotions towards God. Like, why would you even allow this? If you were going to do this, what was the point of allowing our son to be born, to allow us to experience that, and then you take him? So I mean, that was a tremendous one. And then the next one was our son Timothy, who was born 26 week, 4 days. And he was born, and it just goes to show God's goodness. He was born 26 week, 2 pounds, 9 ounces.
The miracle of that was, I remember think it was the week before he was born.
Yes.
My doctor,
Yes.
she checked me. She was like, I just want to just do a check just to make sure everything's well. And it was a certain test to test for amniotic fluid.
Yeah.
And obviously, when you're pregnant, you're not supposed to have any amniotic fluid anywhere except in the sac. But she did the test and she detected amniotic fluid. And she said, okay, well, I think you're okay, but I'm going to give you an injection just to make sure that should anything happen, his lungs, can develop quickly.
Yeah.
And a week later, he was born. And I remember when he was born, 50-50 chance. Like they were basically like, we can't tell you he'll live or what. And then when he was in the NICU, we had multiple death scares because they saw something that looked like a condition called necrotizing enterocolitis, which is fatal to preemies. They saw it a couple times. Yeah. God sustained him. I mean, he'll be 12 next week.
Wow. What a
and that's a word for somebody. That's a word for someone watching us that, sometimes the doctors will say you're never going to have children. They told us that.
Oh, yeah. They said I was infertile.
They told us that.
Over and over and over again. And then when Timothy was born, they told us he was going to have all types of problems, developmental issues, health issues. And our son to this day, straight A student.
Healthy. Yes. Talks incessantly. I remember going to the occupational therapist when he just got released from the hospital because he was in the bed, his muscles were really tight. And so they had to do some therapy on him. And she was speaking all types of doom and gloom. She was like, oh, he's going to have this issue and that issue and have ADD and this and that. Yeah. And I got to a point, I was maybe like, I don't know, 2-3 appointments in. He was supposed to go for
She had a Peter moment.
I just stopped. I stopped going. Like I said, I'm not going. I was like, I'm going to figure out what I need to do for my baby to help my baby at home, but I am not going to let this woman speak death over my child. And so, we just started to work with him at home. And he is healthy and happy. We have our 9-year-old son who was born fully healthy. After losing Daniel, they found out that I had a condition called incompetent cervix, and they were able to do a very minor procedure to help Isaac go full term. And so, that was definitely a Valley experience. I think we both had a lot of just pain and disappointment, but God is good.
But I can tell you, it is in situations like that you come to know God.
For real. Oh, man.
For yourself more than anybody else. Because the truth of the matter is, although we had people all over the world praying for us,
nobody could help us.
Nobody could help us. I mean, we were in that situation in the hospital room, seeing your son with all these cables and cords and stuff in him, and there's literally nothing that you can do. All we could do was pray and depend upon God. And every time they came in, we think his bowels have perforated and we're going to have to go in and do all this. I mean, we learned to pray together.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we learned to read and study our Bible together. It was during that time that I think God has been the realest to me, because we would just see him show up in ways to where literally like in hours or, the next day they're getting ready to do surgery. And then some way they come back and find, the x-ray says that it's something different. We don't think that it's actually that, so that was a very, very, very tough time in our life, but God brought us through it. And for somebody who's watching today, who may be going through something like that too, man, we serve a God who is able, man. He is able to do exceedingly and abundantly above all that we can ask or think. And don't give into the despair of what people are saying until God says it's over. It's not over.
Amen.
Oh, amen. Oh,
so powerful. I have a couple of thoughts. Like we have seen in our own life and other friends as well, how when doctors speak, they have the best intention of giving you the news that they feel you have. But I think so many times it puts a limit on God and what he can do, because we put it in this box and now we can't expand outside of that. And I just think it's so powerful that the two of you recognize that so early on, because it is words of death and that doesn't belong here. We want to speak words of life. And that's just so moving and so inspiring to hear how the two of you really worked through that. And one other follow-up question is, how did that impact your relationship specifically? Because we have seen both sides where it draws couples together or it pushes them apart.
Yeah, I think it did both. On the one hand, we had to deal with, there was a lot of just anger, bitterness, animosity, that we had to work through, not even just for that situation, but just personally, like personal situations that we had to really work through, expectations that I think we had of each other, that weren't met. And it's funny because when you think about it, they were expectations that were never spoken. It was just like, you should know to do, and so you just get angry about things that your spouse isn't doing that you didn't even articulate you needed. And so we had to get through that. But I think it was going through that where we had to make a decision. And something that we decided is we're like, look, we have to make this work.
Yeah.
Like, we can't just quit on each other. And that was really important for us, is making the decision that we are going to make this work. And no matter how angry I am, no matter how angry he is, like, walking away is not an option.
Yeah.
So we're going to have to sit down and figure this out. So yes, I'm hurt. Yes, I'm angry. That may mean going to sleep sometimes where I don't want to talk to you. And this one over here, what he would do is, if I would go to sleep, either without him or angry, he would get on his side of the bed and just bounce on the bed. Just keep on bouncing. And I was
the Bible says don't go to bed.
Don't let the sun go down on your wrath. But this one here was like, no, we're gonna talk. And so I'm grateful for that, though, in hindsight. In the moment, I was not. But very grateful for that in hindsight. And I think, again, it did both. It pushed us away, but it also made us confront the fact that, look, I'm not leaving you. You're not leaving me.
Yeah. I mean, and we're talking transparent. I mean, expectations is huge.
Yes.
When I got married, I never expected to have issues having children. Yeah. So sometimes you can begin to blame the spouse, like, man, just being honest, like, what's going on? Like how many children, like, and for a while we couldn't figure out what it was until God connected us with a doctor who actually paid attention to what was going on and actually started to examine, like, why do these miscarriages keep happening? And that's when my wife was talking about, they found a very simple thing that they had to do. But just being honest, when that was occurring, I had all types of feelings and emotions. Like, I have had children that are lost. Like, what's wrong? Like, what's, it almost direct, like, what's wrong? Like, why can't you do this? Yeah. And I think after a while, God had to do that work within me to say, you know what, this isn't so much on her. We're a team in everything that we do. And to my wife's point, no matter what happens, come heck or high water, we're going to stick this thing out together. We had that with our son, TJ. It took a whole year pretty much.
Well, he was in the NICU for like 3 months.
And then
but it took about afterwards.
Afterwards, it was like a year of therapy and getting him to work and, stuff that he couldn't do for his age. I mean, it took a while, but I think that brought us together with having to learn to work together. And whatever God gives to us, we're in it and we're going to make it work.
Yeah. What do you think God was trying to teach you through going through all of that?
Humility.
Yeah.
Absolute humility. I mean, I'm an only child and he's the baby of his family. So that's a recipe for every type of disaster you could possibly think about in marriage. Because the level of pride, like, just used to getting your way, having it your way. And then when you go through that, where you look like you have no control, it doesn't matter what you want. You're not in control. I think teaching humility.
I think humility, but also dependency.
Yeah, both.
Because
that's true.
It was during that moment to where we had nothing else.
Yeah.
And so when you're in a situation to where you can't pay the bill, you can't come up with whatever it is, all you have is God. Yeah. And that's literally where we were. Yeah. We were thankful for all the prayers from everyone else, but in that moment, in that hospital room, in front of that doctor, all we had was God. Yeah. And he showed up in a big and mighty way.
Yeah, I can see why you said having your children was one of the biggest mountains for your family. And I can really see that because of what you've been through to get there.
Yeah, and I'm so grateful that you are transparent and sharing this, because thank you for sharing. It's a powerful story, and it's a powerful story of to me, of healing and a powerful story of God's grace and just your own resiliency in life and how you're choosing to look at things, because you could absolutely look at it different
and even push God away
Yeah.
in all of it. But you drew closer to him. It's so powerful.
Yeah. I mean, I'm grateful. I'm grateful for that. I think what was interesting is we were complimenting each other, because there would be times where he would be frustrated and I would be the one to encourage him, or there would be times when I would be frustrated and he would be the one to encourage me. I thank God that it never got to a place where we were just both frustrated, where it was like, we're both like, this is just too much. It was like we were able to keep each other encouraged, and that matters a lot.
It does.
You know, of just always having that need to do it better. How could we do it better? And it just causes me to just be overly critical.
Because I had a really challenging childhood where I was told, like my mother literally told me she didn't want me. I feel like I'm unwanted, and I'm extremely sensitive to being left out or overlooked, and can take that very personally. And insecurity is really a function of what your identity is secured to. And so
for childhood, I've had to learn to be very careful of how I talk to her, because my criticalness can trigger the feeling of,
wow, what another great part of the interview, wasn't it? Just really enjoyed that.
It was.
We hope you enjoyed it also, and we'll see you in the next video.